Laura Riley of Webster, New York. My name is Chris Chichester. You know my name and like this because we first met on January 4th, 1986. So Laura Riley of Webster, New York. This is an address here. I'm going to say this more than once for you to contact me because I'm going to ask a series of questions. Christopher Chichester is my name. 620 Park Avenue, PMB 361, Rochester, New York 14607. I'm going to say this again. Christopher Chichester, 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, New York 14607. Do you, Laura Riley, know that under the law of the state of New York, to remove the personal possessions from the home of any citizen requires a court order? And you took every single thing I owned from where we used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield, New York, to a storage locker in Webster, New York, without a court order. So, Laura Riley, what are the facts and circumstances of you injecting yourself back into my life when our relationship ended? Did our dead landlord, Giuseppe Spano, call you and threaten you and say, I'm going to take everything your ex-boyfriend owns and throw it away if you don't come and retrieve it? Did his father, Antonino Spano of Webster, New York, of Pearport, New York, who is still alive, call you? What are the facts and circumstances of you, Laura Riley, injecting yourself into my life and taking everything I own to a storage locker in Webster, New York? I say everything I own because I thought everything I owned was in there. And then when I went to the storage locker with Pepper Lisiski of the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, my books are not in there. My bed's not in there. My couch is not in there. And why is that, Laura Riley? Were you in the residence? Did you walk into the residence, look at my books, look at my couch, look at my bed, and other items, decide not to take it? The fact that I have to be on here on this YouTube and use this language and direct this language at you is the lunatic fringe. Because you're the lunatic fringe, Laura Riley. Tell me what happened with my illegal eviction, and it's illegal because there is no court order. Laura Riley of Webster, New York. I do not know if you live in Webster where we used to live, at 781 Winifred Drive. I used to ride my bike by there on, I think it was 5 Mile Line Road. And I'd occasionally think about you because I had already been in contact with you. This is how long ago this is, where I'm saying to you, tell me what happened with my illegal eviction. When I would ride my bike by there, I think she's not responded to me. And you know what I don't have? I don't have my bikes. I had 2 bikes. Did you walk to my residence, see my bikes, and not take my bikes? What's the answer to this question, Laura Riley? What are you doing back in my life? And what are you doing taking my things to a storage locker? So I don't have 3 hours on this Google product that is YouTube. But I've attached my most recent YouTube from the Sheriff's Office, which has 50 Freedom of Information Law documents in it. And I'm explaining what's happened to me. This is the lunatic fringe where I'm in jail 6 times, and 6 times the prosecutor hasn't been talked to court, and every single criminal charge for me is a fiction and a lie. And when I spoke to my father, who I've not talked to in 12 plus months, he says to me, your ex-girlfriend knew you were in jail, which I didn't know. So you've been in contact with my family members. When my father said to me, Laura knows you've been in jail, I was frozen on the phone. Because that's something I would never disclose to you. So you know I've been in jail, and my father's telling me you know I've been in jail because of this storage locker and your contact with my sister, Barbara Stamatakis of Glenwood, Maryland. You've met Barbara Stamatakis and her husband, Nick, of Glenwood, Maryland, because we drove down there. When you used to be Laura Riley. That's the Laura Riley I will always know and love. This Laura Riley today, in the year 2022, is totally unrecognizable. You don't even know yourself and what you've become. And if that is because of an illness I'm not aware of, well, that's understandable. What's not understandable, Laura Riley, I think of Webster, New York, is you refusing to tell me what happened to my personal possessions and the destruction of my life that you're right in the middle of. So, Laura Riley, this is the parking lot next to where we used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield. You can walk through this parking lot, Laura Riley, without being arrested. And if you can see, there's two neighbors in my photo here. A warrant for my arrest for this parking lot, I've walked through 4,000 times. I'd walk into Gold's Gym in Fairport. I'd walk to Camp's Pizza. I'd walk to Wegmans or Target. 4,000 times I've walked through this parking lot. And this man named Nayraj Shah one day is screaming at me because he moved into this building with his 70-year-old mother. 50-year-old man lives with his 70-year-old mother. My dentist, Dr. Gloria Nichols, used to be at 2033 Penfield Road, which is right over here. And I had this confrontation with Shah one day. He goes to the sheriff's office, and there's a warrant for my arrest, and I don't know there's a warrant for my arrest. So this is how they concoct criminal contempt for me, Laura Riley. Shannon Meyer, the 67,000 repulsive cretin from hell, who calls me, I speak to her for an hour. I tell her people walk through this parking lot all day long. She contacts a man named Steve Desmond of Broccola Tree in Lawn Care. She says, I'm not making this up. Roger tracked to buy his residence at 26 Sanders Farm Drive. Get him to come out of the house. If he does, we're going to arrest him. The problem with that, Laura Riley, is that's not a crime. For me to walk outside, stand right here next to 26 Sanders Farm Drive, well, we used to live, Laura Riley. Say nobody owns that land and walk back my reds. That's not a crime, which on the YouTube I've attacked. I've gone into detail about this. This is the fanaticism, the extremism of this repulsive Monroe County Sheriff's Office with this party-switching stooge, Todd Baxter, doesn't know if he's a Republican or Democrat. And I was in jail for this, for walking outside, standing here, saying nobody owns that land and walk back in my reds. And then I go to this gym called PW Fitness. I've said this on YouTube. And I'm on the bench press. Up walks to me a man named Jermaine L. Bedman. He goes like this. I say, I'll be 30 seconds. Bedman stands over me, punches down. My head snaps back violently. He walks away. Who did I just harass there after being violently attacked? And I subsequently took Taekwondo lessons, and I now know how to defend myself. This will never happen to me again if anybody puts their fingers on me. This event where I'm attacked like this has motivated me to not only be in excellent physical condition, which I already was, but to know how to defend myself, which I now know how to do. This will never happen to me again, but it did that day. So who did I just harass? Laura Riley. Andrew Reale arrives. You know why Andrew Reale is a $79,000 deputy at the sheriff's office knows me? Because it's his parking lot. I'm not some stranger, and he thinks, here's this Chris Chichester again. I'm going to concoct the crime for him. And then he tells me to wait in the backseat of his vehicle. I'm in the backseat of his vehicle. So this far, Laura Riley, if you're able to process facts and circumstances, who did I just harass? Because I'm not harassing anyone. I'm in the backseat of the vehicle for Andrew Reale. He tells Bedman what to say to me because he wants to put the screws to me. And then he says these 7 words to me. I want to press charges against you. And with those 7 words, Laura Riley, I think of Webster, New York, I'm charged with harassment second. So I have to go into Penfield Town Court and answer criminal contempt second because of $67,000 Shannon Meyer. Well, that's not a crime. And harassment second by $79,000 Andrew Reale. Well, that's not a crime. And I appear in front of John P. Lomenzo Jr., who is 70 years old. Where do you think Penfield Town Court is, Laura Riley? Do you know? Because you're a former employee of the Penfield Public Library. When you were first hired there, or at any point, did you know that Penfield Town Court is approximately 100 feet down from the entrance to Penfield Public Library? Because I didn't know despite your employment there. And a relationship ended shortly after you're employed there. So I walk into this little room with one judge, John P. Lomenzo Jr., and I use judge in a way where he's a joke and a buffoon. And I stand in front of him. I look over at the prosecutor from Sandra Dorley's district attorney's office. I'm thinking the minute she starts to talk and accuse me of a crime, criminal contempt second, harassment second, I'll interrupt her. It's total silence, Laura Riley. And I take a step away because I think I'm going back to where we used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive. And Andrew Reale says to me, put your hands behind your back. And there's a Monroe County Sheriff Office employee behind me. He puts his hands on my shoulders and he drives me down to the floor. I'm on my knees in Penfield Town Court. The handcuffs go on. They drove me to Monroe County Jail. And then when I get to Monroe County Jail, I'm not even told how long I'm going to be there. I was only there for 3 weeks. And then they drove me, I'm not going to say this on YouTube, to a facility where I had to take what's called the 730 mental health evaluation, which I passed because I'm competent. And a facility I was released from because Todd Baxter, this buffoon and skinhead and stooge has my health care records, and he violated federal law. My former employer, United States Senate, United States House of Representatives, passed the Health Insurance Privacy Protection Act to properly protect health care records. And Todd Baxter was giving my health care records to Penfield Town Court judges, Paul C. Metzer and John P. Lomenzo Jr. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to talk about where I've been. Because Google is an open forum on YouTube. So this is the Lunatic Fringe. I was at jail in another facility, and that's 4 weeks of my life that just vanished because of fanaticism. And you, Laura Riley, are fanaticism because you're refusing to tell me what happened to my life, what happened to my personal possessions. What is wrong with you, Laura Riley? Why are you refusing to disclose to me the facts and circumstances of you, Laura Riley, injecting yourself into my life? And do you see what I'm wearing here? This cost $6. I bought this at the Goodwill on South Clinton Avenue in Rochester because I don't have any clothes, Laura Riley. And you're involved in the fact that I don't have any clothes. Do you remember, Laura Riley, that I used to wear a St. Christopher medal? I've been wearing this for 30 years. Just like other things in my life, I had to go buy one. Because as you know, I don't go by Christopher. I don't want my mother and father call me by Christopher. So I bought this so I could think about my mother and father, who I've not talked to in over a year. Because they just simply refuse to understand that I'm an innocent man. And it doesn't matter to you that I'm an innocent man. I don't care what you think, and I don't care what your opinions are. I'm telling you what's happened to me. I'm telling you committed a crime. I'm telling you you're right in the middle of the destruction of my life, where I no longer have a relationship with my mother and father. I'm going to write all this in a criminal complaint about you. So, Laura Riley, I don't know if you're going to be arrested, because what you have going for you is this repulsive Monroe County Sheriff's Office doesn't know what constitutes a criminal act. This is the George Costanza Monroe County Sheriff's Office, where the opposite is true, where a crime is not a crime, and what's not a crime is a crime. Laura Riley, this is where I can be reached. Right here. Christopher Chichester, 620 Park Avenue, PMB number 361, Rochester, 14607. I will send you the transcript, but I don't know with certainty where you are. I don't know if you still work at the Fairport Public Library, because I saw that there was a meeting of, I believe it's the trustees, and you were hired there. But I have no idea. I have no idea where you're employed, no idea where you live. I have to guess where you're employed and where you live, because you decided to inject yourself into my life, and you decided to refuse to provide me with answers about what you've done to me, being right in the middle of my life where I now own nothing, and I'm wearing clothes from Goodwill. I'm going to go through my phone here. I'm going to show you a few things, as this YouTube's now at 13 minutes. And Laura, perhaps you've noticed that my voice is raised because I have to control myself when I think about what's happened to me and you being in my life, because of the hatred that I have for this Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney Sandra Dorley and these corrupt, nauseating, sick judges who are just declaring me guilty when a prosecutor has never talked in court. So, Laura, this is what's left of my life. These trash bags. Where I live in a loft in Rochester. That's it. I have nothing but these bags. And a reason I have nothing but these bags is because of you, Laura Riley. This is my sublease. It's only for 4 months, and I hope to go back to Albany, Washington, D.C., where I could be employed. I got a landlord that's half my age. And that's the transit center. I can see the transit center from this window I'm looking at right here. The crime and violence around this transit center and what goes on at this transit center is worse than anything I saw in Washington, D.C., where I live right next to the Capitol at 111 C Street, and then I live at 600 Constitution Avenue. It takes me about 15 minutes to walk to work. The crime and violence in this city is a disgrace. And Mayor Malik Evans is not doing anything about it, and the sheriff and district attorney certainly aren't either. And this is it. This is where I live. I'm in this little loft that I'm grateful to be here with nothing. There's nothing in here. That's not my TV. That's my landlord's TV. That's not my couch. That's my landlord's couch. There's nothing in here that I own because you're right in the middle of me having nothing. Laura Riley, I think of Webster, New York. And I'm using this app called TikTok to communicate with what I call Psychopaths Incorporated at the Sheriff's Office, the Transit Center. The Sheriff's Office, District Attorney's Office. I was just looking at the Transit Center because I'm on this app called TikTok. And I'm inside the Transit Center this one day here. That's me inside the Transit Center. Well, I'm telling the District Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, to go to this Transit Center because of what I see inside there. This is extremely alarming. This is me on here. And I'm telling Todd Baxter to deploy his employees around this transit center. In Union Station in Washington, D.C., when I would take the train or on the Metro, because there's Union Station with Amtrak and then there's the Metro. This is a freak show I've never seen before inside this transit center. And I've been inside where Amtrak was at Union Station, D.C., like I just said, and I would take the Metro all the time. I've been on the Metro in Washington, D.C. 500 times. I've never seen a freak show at a transit center like this transit center in Washington, New York. In Rochester, New York, when Washington, D.C. is the most violent city in Rochester. And this is me telling Todd Baxter, we're at Transit Center loitering at Rochester. Well, I'm telling this bald-headed party-switching stooge to eject his employees from their vehicles and walk around this transit center. Over and over and over I'm on there because I'm telling them that they're corrupt. I'm telling them they're extremists. Do you even know what goes on in Rochester if you still live in Webster? Because a man named Almani Allen was murdered right outside where I now am by twin brothers Donald and Ronald Brown. This murder was less than 100 yards from where I sit because the police are not on foot. You know what I don't have, Laura Riley? I have what you have in your residence. Because I own nothing. This is a DD-214. I had a requisition, a copy of my DD-214. I'll guess you still have your original. This is the lunatic fringe, the sickness of what's happened to me when you're the lunatic fringe and you're the sickness of what's happening to me. Has happened to me. I had to contact the Department of Defense to get all this. And when I looked at it, Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Air Assault Badge, I had to keep it together. Why do you think I have those honors? And millions of soldiers do. I'm not the special. Do you think I'm some fundamentally radically different human being from Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 2nd 17th Cavalry, 159th Aviation Battalion? Because I'm not. How many people know 159th Aviation Battalion in your life, Laura Riley? Because I'm the only one. Over and over, I'm demanding information. Todd Baxter, Sandra Rowe, this is 50. I've attached this. They won't even tell me the names of my prosecutors who've never talked in court, yet I'm in jail. What would you think if Davis or Sarah appeared in a Monroe County court, like Penfield Town Court where I've been, in New York State Supreme Court where I've been in front of Alex Renzi, and there's Davis and Sarah in jail without a prosecutor talking court. And then you have to go see Davis or Sarah in jail wearing their orange jumpsuits. And then Davis or Sarah says to you, Laura Riley, Mom, the prosecutor didn't talk in court. What would you think about that happening to Davis or Sarah? Because that's a sick lunatic fringe. And the sick lunatic fringe is taking everything I own to a storage locker and refusing to tell me the facts and circumstances of such. Laura Riley, I think of Webster, New York. And what you want to do, because it's easy to read your mind, is level me and attack me with this disgraceful language where you talk to me like I'm some kind of alien human being that you haven't known for 35 years. Laura Riley, I think of Webster, New York. Over and over and over, I'm demanding information from the sheriff's office. This is, I think, 15 times in the United States Postal Service. I have to go to Patrick's Printing. I spend $300 alone on printing. These are receipts. Over and over. This is the receipt that comes back to me. over and over. This is 30 times where I'm demanding from Sandra Dole and my prosecutors that never talked in court. These are the cards that come back to me. Well, I'm telling Todd Baxter's fanatics that they're violently attacking me and he's a criminal. Over and over. Demanding information from the courts I've been in. This is UPS. I just did it again here. This is the receipt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this link to this YouTube. I'm going to print it out with your name. And then I'm going to send it to where I think you are on Winifred. I think it's 781 Winifred Drive in Webster or the Fairport Public Library for you to sign for it here. And that's why this is checked. Where it says return receipt hard copy, return receipt electronic. Well, this will come back to me. But I don't know because I've already contacted you with that one address and it came back to me. Laura Riley, I do not know where you live or even if you're employed. And if you're employed, I don't know where you're employed. And you're refusing to tell me what's happened to me. Where you're taking everything I own to a storage locker without a court order, and that's a crime. As I sit here wearing my Goodwill clothes because I had to buy clothes from the Goodwill because you're involved in what's happened to me. Because I don't have any clothes. Did you just leave my clothes in my residence? And what happened when you called my sister Barbara? I would really love to know exactly specifically what you said to her because she paid for the storage locker. Then she decided not to pay. I'll never speak to Barbara again. I'll never speak to my mother or father again. I will not see them again. I do not know if my mother and father are still alive because I've not talked to my mother and father in 12 plus months. I've not talked to my sister in 2 years. And this all began, Laura Riley, with a parking lot that you, Laura Riley, can walk through. The destruction of my life, Laura Riley, is a parking lot that you can walk through without being arrested because you, Laura Riley, are a different kind of American than me. And Davis Hill and Sarah Hill can walk through this parking lot without being arrested because Davis Hill and Sarah Hill are different kind of Americans. And this is it. Why can Davis Hill walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can Sarah Hill walk through this parking lot without being arrested? Why can the former Laura Hill walk through this parking lot without being arrested? They bought this camera and fixed it for me. This lunatic fringe, I'm not going to talk about that. And what I don't have, this is me in Fairport. I ran a 5K. I don't have that. My running jerseys were hanging on the chandelier. Were you in my residence? I took this blue jersey. I was 17 to this race in Fairport along the canal. And I would hang my running jerseys on a chandelier. What happened to my running jerseys? Were you in the residence? What happened with my eviction? My illegal eviction. I don't have that anymore. You know why? Because I have nothing, Laura Riley, and you're involved in nothing. You're involved in me having nothing. Like when the Associated Press came to my residence and wrote a 1,000-word story on me about what I was doing in Albany. I don't have that either. That's me at the University of Rochester in red. And this is what I'm looking for. I want to show you. You remember him, right? The best little guy. You and I decided to adopt a dog when we lived in Webster and we went to Lollipop Farm, Main Side. Do you remember one of the questions, Laura Riley? Quote, you ever been arrested? End quote. If we say yes to that answer, we're not adopting a dog at Lollipop Farm, Main Side. Do you remember when he used to jump up on the bed? I would know it's 3 o'clock in the morning. She would say, get down. Psychopaths Incorporated. That's why I tell you this, just to show you him. People love their dogs with their heart and soul, everything they have. I'm not special in that regard. I'm one of millions. I walked in 4,000 times behind where we used to live. One day, the window opens to this repulsive shack at 2033 Pempton Road called the Shaw Law Firm. A woman is screaming at me. I don't know what that is. I walk through that parking lot. I enter. I say, why are you screaming at me? She refuses to talk to me. An hour later, Psychopaths Incorporated at the Monroe County Sheriff's Office are at my front door with Penfield Animal Control demanding my dog. This is a vicious confrontation at my front door where I say to them, you have to kill me to take my little guy from me. I slammed the door in their face. So my neighbor later on that day, across from where we used to live, came over to talk to me, said I saw that whole thing. This is what's going on with these cretins, these criminals at the sheriff's office. One phone call and they're there to demand him. Love in his heart, if you remember him. He's my third dog, and he's different than the other two. So, what's my name, Laura Riley? How long have you known me, Laura Riley? You've known me since January 4th, 1986. Isn't that right? So, Laura Riley, this is at 25 minutes. Answer my questions. Tell me what happened with my illegal eviction. I'm going to create an account at mail.com, and I'm going to send it to your email that begins SEND, this freak show email. I don't even know why you don't put your name in your email. Whenever I create an email account, my name is in there. It says Chris Chichester. I mean, is it because you don't want to be reached? I don't know. I have never seen anybody have a freak show email that begins with SEND like you. So I don't know if you're going to receive this YouTube link that I'm going to put in an email to you from a mail.com account I create at your email that begins SEND. Then I'm going to take this link. I'm going to print out the email I sent to you, and I'm going to send it to you, registered mail, return receipt, at where I think you live, at 781 Winifred Drive in Webster, or work at the Fairport Public Library, because I'm demanding answers from you. Laura Riley. Laura Riley, if you sign for what I'm going to send you, then contact me at PMB number 361, 620 Park Avenue, Rochester, New York, 14607. Do you fail to understand what I'm telling you to do? Laura Riley? Do what I'm telling you to do, Laura Riley.